Hello, church family. We're doing our 7th parade at our hometown Christmas, December the 10th. We're asking for volunteers for candy. It needs to be individually wrapped in a bag. We will put this at the church welcome center. You can drop it off anytime between now and December the 10th. What's going on? What are you doing? Oh no, this is for the kids.
For the kids!
Parade.
What do you mean kids? I don't. Oh, wait, my heart was enlarged. I do like kids. Oh, here. Take mine. Take mine. My heart.
You, Chris. We'll make all the kids happy.
Oh.
Hey, good morning, church. It is Sunday morning. I'm excited that you're all here. Here are our announcements for this week. Coming up next Sunday, ready? Couple things. One, if you haven't been baptized yet or want to be baptized, we encourage you to connect with me or Matt, call the church or somebody. Listen, it's an obedience thing, so we want you to do this, and we're going to be doing it this following Sunday. And because it's Celebration Sunday, instead of our normal feast afterwards, we're having our Friendsgiving feast, which means we're going to have turkey, we're going to have ham, we're going to have pumpkin pie, pecan pie, we're going to have potatoes and corn, just all the fun stuff. We'd encourage you to bring a side dish. We'll have a sign up for it. We'd love for you to come, bring the family. What a great day to invite people, right, to come afterwards and eat together. So hopefully you grab a hold of that. And finally, just another reminder, we do have the app. I'd love for you guys to get the Lifevine Church app to catch our media, to catch our calendars, to catch what's going on. Also, there's messaging, there's notes you can do, and you can do your giving through it. So all you do is go onto your Play Store, whether it's Android or iPhone, go in there, go under Lifevine Church 2.0, get our app. You can get access to our media, our giving, our calendar. Everything is on there, and it connections that get you really connected quick. It's a small little spot. It also has Bible reading and plan, so I would encourage you to do it. Take care, guys. Were my hands abnormally large in that video? I'm like freakishly, I'm looking down at my hands going, what happened? Those were like huge hands for grabbing people. But no, okay, sorry. I just got thrown off how big my hands looked. So, what a great, I know, my wife would say, oh, squirrel got him already, beginning of service, y'all in trouble. I'm going to stay focused today. I'm going to stay focused. So this usually what happens is I have this great thing that I plan out about the story to come into this sermon. We're talking about our values, a series. We're on a 13-part series because we're covering all 13 of our values in this church so everybody gets an idea and knows without doubt what we value in this church and how we value it. And we have a story, and then here God does in the middle of service, he goes, oh, you're going to do this. And I'm like, there's only 2 songs, Lord, before this happens. I don't know if I have time or the ability, and then I did. So we're going to do something different. I felt like I'm supposed to show you something visually so you catch on to that aspect as well. Make sense? Also, I want to encourage you, if you've heard the words the last couple weeks, we've talked about God giving freedom. We saw a huge response. We talked about surrendering, right? We talked about obedience. Listen, to have freedom and to surrender, you have to be obedient. See, we say we surrender and we say we want to have freedom from our stuff, but we don't want to be obedient to what God calls us to do, right? We're like, hey, I want to be free of my addiction, but I don't want to pray or read the Bible or talk to Jesus. I just want the prize. And so I would say these words are driving us, and I would say there's an encouragement to each word as we go, because when this body has freedom, and when this body is surrendering everything they have, and when this body is being obedient, what's going to occur in this community? You can't help but Jesus to go out. You can't, because if we're being obedient, we're taking his word everywhere we go. We're reflecting what we're doing. If we're surrendering, we're not carrying our junk, which is going to stop us from doing what we want. And if we have freedom from our addictions and our frustrations, we are going into places that we could never go before. Do you see how this all works together? It's amazing when we start looking at the picture and how God's moving in and through us, and that is actually his plan to do. I love it. But here, I'm going to give you a picture right away. We have this, some of you may have seen this before, but we have this beautiful glass jar that I just took from the women's ministry. Calm down, women. I already know you've eyed up what I've grabbed out of your closet, but it was what I had, and I'm using it. And then I'll get in trouble afterwards. Sometimes it's better to say sorry, not always. Don't do it sometimes, but I'm doing it. So we have this glass, and within this glass, I want to put in stuff. Anybody have a bunch of stuff in their life? They have stuff, right? And the rule is this, we can't go above the top. Because if it overflows, we don't have that ability to hold. Does that make sense? And so we have this stuff that we're going to pile in some stuff. This is some Jesus has my heart stuff. And it's going to fit just nicely. I'm missing one of my Jesus has this nice stuff. But it's pretty full. How many more do you think I could get in there? 1, 2. Can't break them. I can't go over the top. Maybe one more. So I'm going to ask you this morning to use your imagination. Poof, I put one in there. Now what I'm going to say to you is this jar full? No. Like, you know this. This jar is full right now of all Jesus loves me eggs that can fit in this jar, right? And we can look at it as that jar being completely full. And then we have the perspective, though, at, okay, so that's full, but we have this, which is awesome, is these other stuff we need to do. Now, this is going to be even better because I brought enough. Look at all these things. Now the women are going crazy. Can't go over. I'm going to shake it down some. I don't want to cheat any spot there. So now we've filled it up with more stuff. Isn't that cool? Now we're definitely full. We can't go over that top. We are definitely full now. And I'm not going to ask because you guys are going to cheat and give me a different answer because you already caught on. And so we have this picture of our stuff now looks like we're full. But in the reality, we have still more stuff we need to do. Anybody have more stuff they need to do? Do you realize that I have more and more stuff to do? Look at this. I'm filling up my whole life with stuff. And I'm fitting it all in at this moment because I still have room in my stuff. And boy, I'm almost full up here. Okay, I brought 2 jars just in case. That was the only thing I was prepared for, it looks like. Now, everybody can be ingredients, I think. Hang on, I'm going to, for the non-sayers. Is our jar full? No. It's still not. No. Probably because we have this ability as well, huh? So now we're filling it up with just a little bit more. Remember, we can't, oh, that's good sand. That's some good sand right there. We're going to have to wait a little bit. I could spend all day doing this at this point, okay? I didn't plan out for the bad sand, the good sand. I did put some in already, and as you can see, it'll sit on top for a bit. It'll go down. And we're going to trust that I could probably almost put this whole bottle in there. And now we know it's full because it's full of stuff. But if we look at this, let's look at this spot. What happens if we haven't put God into that yet? Where's he going to fit? What happens if we start with the water and the sand? Where does God fit in there? Where does family fit in there? See, the issue with us today is not whether or not we have ability to be filled up. We all have the ability to be filled up. It's what are we filling ourselves up with? What are we putting our time? What are we saying is the most important things in our life? And where are we prioritizing them to make sure they fit in to our jar? I know there's seasons in my life where this jar was filled completely with sand and water. I would say just water. I didn't even think I could put sand in there. That's all I had in there was sand and water. I didn't need anything else. I had great video games. I had pizza. I had my friends that didn't need anything from me. I mean, that was just wild and crazy, and I didn't have to worry about nothing except for I worried about everything. It's funny how we get our perspective different, right? And so if we want this jar to be filled up with the most we can, because God wants to have a life that's abundantly filled, correct? I'm not talking abundantly filled with all the money in the world or whatever, but I'm talking he wants you to have a life that's abundant, that you're doing what he's called you to do. If we don't fill this jar up properly and in order, we won't get much in there. You have a bunch of sand and water, and what happens when the storm comes when it's sand and water? It washes away. You better have the rock in here. You better have something in here that's going to hold your foundation. And yet we see today more and more that we are filling up our time with everything but the important things. We have them so out of order, and we don't understand why we go back and say, I don't understand why my family's falling apart. Well, where do they fit into your jar? Are they near the top where you, after you put it in, you can't fit them in because you have no room for them? Like, I think everybody should work. But if you're working 180 hours a week and getting 5 hours of sleep and you're not spending any time with your family, where does God and your family fit in this jar? And so today, this week, we are talking about stewardship. We value stewardship in this church. And part of stewardship is putting stuff in their proper space and using it in the right time. Does that make sense? So we can't just say that we value something if we don't even understand. And as our church, if you go onto our website or whatever, and you go to our culture and you go down, you'll see that we say stewardship is we seek to steward our time, treasure, talents, and family from a heart of love with pure motives, acknowledging that all things belong to God. We surrender that this jar is not ours to fill up. Because if it is, how many have not filled it up wrong before? I'm telling you right now, I've been so off balance so many times. I've been off balance after knowing who Jesus is and surrendering my life to Jesus. Like, oh, but when we give life to Jesus, you just take this out and you dump it out really quick and you set it back up and you just start throwing God back into it. Some people do. Following God, does that mean you get to ignore your family? Ignore your treasures, your talents. I just love some Jesus. I spend 24/7 with some Jesus. I love that you spend that much, but what are you doing with your family? Because Jesus said you're to take care of your wife and your kids, and Jesus said that you should work and do something. And Jesus said that he's given you gifts and talents to go out and use. But if all you do is stay by yourself with Jesus all the time, so you can fill this up with all the rocks you want, but it's not everything he wants for you. And I want us to have an idea that, yes, I actually want you to be full. Because the other issue we have is we put our rocks and our family in there and we decide everything else we don't have to really do that much of. I don't have time for church. You don't have time for Jesus' church? Yeah, I mean, if I get a Sunday off, I need me time. I remember these seasons. If I'm talking to somebody and they're getting offended, I had this talk to me sometimes, so don't. I need my time. You don't understand. I only get, yeah, I actually do understand. I understand the feeling. I'm not trying to get religious that you can't ever have me time. I'm talking about when your me time turns into I don't go to church anymore because I have to work so much. I catch my Bible reading on the way to work, and I've not had time with my friends, so I got to get that in. And if Jesus is time, then I'll get to him. That's bad stewardship. That's not what we're called to do. Stewardship means the careful and responsible management of something entrusted to one's care. Responsible management. You have to actually do something with it. Bad stewardship is you ignore it. Isn't it amazing that when you have a house lived in, even if it's older and busted up, that it will stay in better shape than a house that doesn't have anybody living in it? You notice that those houses just start falling? It doesn't even make sense. It's like, wait a second. I'm in the house with 6 of my kids, and it might last longer than a house with nobody in it. Have you met my kids, right? You done lost your mind. But yet there's just a principle. Because I'm stewarding my house when I'm in it, and the other one's sitting there empty and nothing's being done with it and being ignored. You're not stewarding it well. You're not managing it well. It's the same principle of what God puts in our lives. And we believe there's 4 really good bases for this. And here's going to be the trick. Balancing those 4. There's more than 4 because if we get steward, I could go, God calls us to do, but I'm going to cover 4 today. And if we look at a circle hemisphere, what happens when you take one part out? It doesn't roll like it's supposed to, right? Or it goes flat on a tire. We need to steward some basic things well so that we can move forward in what God calls us to do. And we're going to go in a good order, and I believe that you guys are going to, some of you, hopefully this won't be eye-opening, but some of this will be a good reminder. And we're going to start off with the easy one, on the stewardship of family. The stewardship of family. We all have family. Do you understand that? Whether you're alone or not, you have family in some way. Because none of you were born of no virgin or anything like that. I mean, you have a mom and you have a dad. They might not be in your life anymore. You might be alone, but you do have family. Some way, somehow, they might be far away. Or if you've given your life to Christ, you have a beautiful looking family that's all in attendance today. all right? You all have family some way, somehow. And so we got to understand what family looks like, and we got to steward our family well. So in our family, there's one thing we have to put number one in our family to steward well, and that is God. See, this is what the world's messed up, in my opinion, or what I even started with my relationship, is that God was not first. My wife was first. She was the most important, and I hadn't gotten and understood Jesus that well yet. I mean, she came to me and had a lot of grace, and God spoke to her, and that's the only reason I'm still here, married to her. I've been really good, don't get me wrong, I'm good. But at the beginning, I might not have known Jesus, even though I said I did. And so for me, everything was about my wife. It wasn't about God. And I had a lot of good tendencies about me. So I was doing a lot of good things, even though I didn't know why I was doing them. And now I realize that it's something that God put in me and growing in me. And so I got to have God first in my family. In Deuteronomy 6:5, it says, you shall have the Lord your God, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. You can't love God with all your soul, all your life, everything you have, everything about you if he's not first. Tell your wife if you come home, you don't talk to her, you jump on your video game system, you yell at her, have your food ready, you go to bed, you go to work, you come back home, you don't talk to her again. You watch the football game. You don't cook. The kids need help. You tell them, your wife to do it. And this is a repeat. I'm not saying anybody's doing this. Do you believe that your wife is going to believe, not you, because you still might believe this, that you love her with all your heart and all your soul and all your might? No, you don't. Oh, I'm sorry. She will not believe that for 1 second. Hey, it's Friday, Lovin's, yay. You haven't talked to me in 6 days. And? I love you with all my heart, with all my mind, with all my soul. And it's funny, we do this with people, yet we think we can do it with God, and he doesn't catch on. Like, oh, I've tricked my wife. One, you have not tricked your wife. But we think we can actually sell it to God that we love him the most when he's never number one in what we're doing. The crazy thing is when God's number one and we're doing what he's telling us to do, we actually live our life the way we're supposed to. Oh, shoot, I'm a husband. I'm supposed to die for my wife, be everything that Jesus was to her. This is too much. I know. Oh, my Lord, this isn't fair. Can we switch? I would prefer, you might not like this, but I would love the fact that my wife was supposed to die for me and everything for me perfectly the way they started off. Then we get mad when it says that a woman will be submissive to the man. But if you keep reading on, it's not submissive in a bad way. It's a beautiful way. It's a mutual relationship that works together. Listen, to put God first means he's going to fix your marriage. To put God first, which is second, is your spouse, right? Here's what happens also in relationships. I got married. Yay! Nobody told me what happens when you do this marriage stuff, and then I had kids. And I have 6 kids. Like, hey, they keep coming. All the time. There's a lot. And then what happens? Where does God here's some good, God might actually stay here. Oh, he's a God. He's so good. I've known God before I knew my husband. He's so good. And then my wife, oh, she's so awesome. My husband's so awesome. And then we have all these kids, and our kids somehow get boop, above our spouse. How does that happen? I want to tell you something. Most of you in 17 years are going to be doing this to them. Praying they land on their feet. Biblically, you can't ever do that to your spouse. No, really, I'm telling the truth. It's in there. We move our kids above our spouse, and then we wonder why our relationship with our spouse isn't as good as it's supposed to be. Because they're not fooled. You know how hard this is? This is even harder when you have a mixed family, right? My oldest son is technically, by law, not my son. That's my boy. Ain't nobody gonna ever tell me that's not my son. I didn't meet him until he was 2.5. But he's my son. You know how hard it is that if you already have kids, you get married, and now your spouse goes above the kid that you've been raising for 2.5 years? You're like, well, that's just not fair. The child. Listen, when you put it in the right order, God takes care of the kids. You start thinking, well, if I got God and my spouse, well, now if I'm surrendering everything, I love my God with all might, and I'm honoring and loving my wife with all my right, there's another thing that God tells me to do. I got to raise my kids right. You don't skip over them and don't love them anymore. But when we move them out of the process and we don't steward it well, then we have hurt feelings. We have mistrust. We have this spot where we're not valued more than our kids. And then 18 years later, we wonder why there's a mass amount of divorce after the final kid leaves. Because you're not friends anymore. You were two babysitters. When we have a dad, hey, listen, I'm excited. Well, I am excited and not excited. I like my wife. I don't want my kids to leave technically because, I love my kids. But I want them to leave, but not far. I'm just trying to, next door would be awesome. I'd like to build a street with the Geller kids, right? It's a long street. I get it. I need more than a block. It's okay. I'm all right with that. But I want a long street. I want to be able to lock my doors at night and they can't come in. And I want the grandkids to come over, sugar them out, let them out, and just giggle as they run home. Gotcha. That's what I want to do. But I want my wife to be there. And the problem is if I raise my kids where they're more important than my wife might at that point find somebody else that thinks she's more important than my kids. Or the vice versa. And so we need to have that. And we see in the Bible, it's pretty interesting. Ephesians 5:25. Husband, love your wife as Christ loved the church and gave herself up to her. Wives, submit to your own husbands as the Lord. This puts God first. Puts our wives and our spouses, is easy to say. And then it puts our kids next. Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. This is so much more powerful than people think. We become one, not two. And when we work as one, it's a beautiful thing. But when our kids come between us, we're not one anymore. It's just. And then we have Ephesians 6:4. It says, fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in discipline and instruction of the Lord. This puts the kids right after the spouse. And then the final one I say is the ministry job. Whatever you do, do your work heartily as for the Lord and not for people. See, we all have a ministry. And you know what many pastors have done terrible? Is they've taken the ministry and moved it all the way up past their kids and their spouses. And it's God. Of course, it's God. He's a ministry, right? We're not going to screw that up. It's God first, and then it's ministry. I got to be there. I got to be there. I got to be there every day, 24/7. I got to be there. If they call, I got to go. I understand I haven't been a kids game forever. I understand that I'm canceling it. I understand that everybody's emergency is my emergency. If they can't do it, they can't do it. If I'm not there, this whole body's just going to fall apart and die. Oh my goodness, I got to be there. My ministry is so important. And yet, I was gone this summer, and the church did not start on fire. Lottie is still here. More of you are here. God is good. But when we move and don't steward our time in this aspect, it gets out of place. Your kids regret. Can you imagine? You know how many pastor kids, why we have so many problems with PK kids? It's because the ministry became so more important than them, they started getting mad at God because God took their dad away or their mother away from ministry. You're like, Simon, every once in a while you miss a Sunday to go watch your son play or your daughter play. Yes. When I first started ministry, I thought that was terrible. Then I started talking to pastors, and I started reading the Word more about that stuff, and I realized church is unbelievably important to me. But if I can't show my kids that they are also very important to me, they're missing out. And I don't want them to reject God because of me. So you see, here's for those, everybody has a ministry, so I talked about your job. I just want to provide for my family. I want them to have everything I didn't have, but they don't have you. I work 130 hours a week. I'm fantastic. That's great. I'm so proud of you. But what would your kids ask for? I give them whatever they want. What happens? They want you. But I have a lifestyle I want to live. But they need you. Biblically, they need you. They need a dad. They need a mom. They need to be in a household, together, being raised up, learning the Lord. They need to have fun things too. Listen, I love to bless my kids. I love to bless my kids. In fact, I'm at a point where I'd rather bless my kids than be blessed. It's just like, what do you want for your birthday? Some of my kids don't know. I asked for my birthday. This is what I asked for my birthday gifts. I want a private pitching lesson for Simon. That's what I want for my birthday. Wait, it has nothing to do with me, but it brings me joy to bless him because he loves it. Remember, maybe some of y'all love your birthdays. You're like, what do you want for a birthday? Oh, I've got a list. Christmas. Like for me, I'm like, hey, how can, and even when I don't, my blessing is my kids. My blessing is my spouse. My blessing is I have a God in heaven who loves me and died for me and has redeemed me. I need to steward this well because I want to be obedient to what God's called. So when we start in stewardship, we got to start with our family. We get that off, everything else falls apart. We get that off, you're in my office way too much. I love you to be in my office, but I don't want you to be in my office because you can't get along with your spouse. Do I want to help you? Yes. But do I want it all the time? Because it's not in this area? Why do you think we're so focused to get on the intimacy with Jesus? Because when you put him first, this stuff just naturally lines up. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's like God had a plan or something. It's crazy. Like, did that guy think this out or did he just wing it? I think he might have thought it out. Second, we talk about time. You need to manage your time. Hebrews 10:24-25 says, and let's consider how to encourage one another in love and good deeds, not abandoning our own meeting together as a habit of some people, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see day drawing near. I use that verse because I love that verse. It was one that reminded me that it was important to come to the church. Some of you are like, oh, you pastors always use that verse. That's just part of your time. I have time for intimate daily relationship with God. Has to be on there. If I don't, I can't fill it up right. I have time for my spouse. I have time for my kids. I have time for my ministry. I have time to come to church. I prioritize my time because I only have, do you know you only have 24 hours in a day? Does anybody have more than that? Could somebody help me if they do? Anybody have more than 24 hours in a day? Nope. All right. All right. Does anybody have more than whatever? You see what I'm saying? Has anybody got more than 7 days in a week? Nope. If you don't prioritize your time's going to run anyways. It's going to be gone. I might not be the best prioritizer of time. I might have been known as one of those kids that passed chemistry because he studied on Thursday night for the test on Friday. Anybody else in that world? Yeah, okay, you with me all? That's not good time management. How many of you would love for the fact that I would show up on church on Sunday, sit in that chair and go, man, sure hope God's going to bring a word today. He can do it. You'd be like, have you thought about it? No, God's good. Translation, Packers were on last night. Okay. Then I had this and that, and I really thought these things were important. But we do that we don't manage our time, and we wonder where it's gone. Like, I don't understand why my kids don't do this, or I don't understand why my spouse is not thinking I love them. When's the last time you spent time with them? Well, let me check that calendar. Oh, it's been a month and a half. That's why. Why do I say we talk about an intimate daily relationship? Listen, we put the word daily in there so you understand your time has to be daily. So you're like, you shouldn't go Tuesday and go, man, I wonder how my intimate daily's going. Well, did you talk to him yesterday? Nope, not going well. Right? I want you to have something you can judge right away. Intimate daily. Wait a second, that seems like a lot. Yep. If you get into his presence daily, things are going to start working out better. And if you don't manage that time and you come see me, in fact, most of my meetings that I will have, and I'm not, is we discuss as leadership, we always ask, how's your intimate daily going and how's your Sabbath going? And you know, for our leadership team, we're 100% accurate. Everybody's doing it perfectly. And I'm about to get hit by lightning. We have honest conversations. We're not managing our time well. I don't have the time. It's not true. If God says to have the time, you have the time. We're choosing not to. Or we need to work with people to choose how we can make it happen. Does it make sense? Like, I don't have the time to read the Word. Okay, let's look at your day. This is one of my favorite things is when people ask me for their budgets. I switched, I understand. They say, hey, I have no money. I said, okay, can we look at your budget? No. Why? Because I don't want you to know what I just spent my money on this month. I don't understand that. Well, I don't make much. Perfect. Let's see what you spend on. No. Why? Because you're going to tell me I don't need the $180 cable package. Yes, I am. I'm going to tell you that. No. What else? Eating out. Okay. This budget for eating out is more than my mortgage. Can you explain to me? Do they know you by first, middle, and last name? They know me by date of birth, sir. Okay. So does Visa, right? Yes, they do. Okay. We have to look at stuff. We have to see why we don't have time or management of something. And we have to manage our time to be effective for God, for our family. If I don't schedule time for my family, who's going to? You? Nope. The best thing that has happened to me since doing ministry was my 3 months off for sabbatical. We planned it out. We scheduled it out. We stayed with it. I tried not to do it. I fought during the period of it, and I received the most quality time I've seen in a long time where it was just me and him. And now I'm fired up. And you guys are suffering. Oh, no. And you guys are blessed? Okay, I'm going to receive that. Uh-oh. We're going to talk about the next little window in the thing is treasure. How do you steward your treasure? There's 3 of you that just got all frustrated before I'm even going to finish my first sentence. And I say that because that was me in church before I started talking about this right now. Treasure, we're going to break it down to 3 quick things. Number 1, your treasure needs to be tested. You're like, what are you talking about? Where does the treasure land in your heart? Your treasure, where does it land? A couple easy verses. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Luke 12:34. Matthew 6:24. No one can serve 2 masters, for he either will hate the one and love the other, or will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. Does your treasure run you, or do you run the treasure? You can't tell me if you steward your money well if you can't answer that question. You have to test what the treasure is to you. I love God so much, he's such a blessing. Okay. What happens if tomorrow you lost your job, you had to go work at Whataburger? Anybody works at Whataburger? I'm not saying bad, I just realized that. You went to somewhere to work that wasn't paying you what you were paying. You're going to lose the new truck you just got because you're paying $800 a month for a truck. And now you're back down to your 1983 Dodge Durango. Are you still excited about your life? Because if your treasure was your money and your possessions and you just lost them, you lost your treasure. But if your treasure is God, you can't ever lose them. It doesn't matter if you're poor, you're rich. You're medium rich, I don't know. If your treasure's in the right place, your money doesn't run you. Have you ever met people where their money runs them? It's amazing. There's studies out saying that the richest people in the world, there's a huge percentage, they're also the most unhappiest people in the world. But money brings happiness. No, money brings a lot of fun stuff. It does. But money does not supplant happiness. You got to test your heart when it comes to money. It was the number one. I had 3 main reasons I could not come to Jesus in my 20s. Money was one of them. By wholehearted, money that was mine. Nobody's going to get it. Nobody's going to have it. And it was so important to me. And I'm just being real. Let alone the church get my money. You know, lost your mind. Like I said, I'm one of probably only few people you'll meet in the world that got truly saved on a tithe message. I did. That's my salvation came, my true salvation, not my running moment. My true salvation, my true understanding of God came on a tithe message. So don't tell me that this is not a steward issue when the thing that was keeping me from God was he was not my treasure. My money was. And I wasn't even rich. I was pretty poor. Didn't matter. That little I have was mine. Number 2, you need a plan for your finances. Why do we get in trouble? Because we just spend money like we don't know. I'm really struggling. And I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings right now. And I'm not going to do it because I want to. I just want to hear this, that you can maybe hear it in a way you haven't heard it before. But I'm really struggling. I'm not being able to pay my payment, but I got a new dog. Why? I need to love. You have Jesus. But now you have a $300 vet bill, a thing that eats food every week. I just offended at least half of you with pets. I apologize, not really. Because maybe you're fine, but I'm talking about when I have discussions and you're wondering whether it's worthy to have a dog or have your electricity turned off and you have kids, we have a problem. We laugh. I know some of us are laughing because it was us sometimes, and I'm glad. Because this is not to me offensive. I'm talking about we need to have a plan for your finances. I really want a new car, but I have no money. But I'll go get a loan, but I still have no money. They won't give it to me if they don't think I can pay it. Yes, they will. They'll take your big down payment and they'll come get it in 6 months. And you'll wasted everything you could have built up to do something. Here's the level of my cars. People wonder, how did, Simon, you own cars? I did. This is the way I went. My first car was $250. I started it with the butter knife. It had a huge dent, and so when it rained, the water would sometimes come in. First car, proud of it. Second car, Camaro, $700. Door won't really shut, but I was driving that Camaro. You know when you're 19 or 20 and you're driving down the road in a Camaro that they're looking at you, right? But they were laughing. I didn't understand. Third car, I moved up all the way to the $1,000 range. Little VW. Not Beetle, one of those little cars. So it wasn't even a cool one. It was just one. Yeah, that bad boy, you should have seen me, 6'2". Still haven't met my wife yet. I wonder why. Then I got moved up to a new car, an $8,000 pickup that my parents loaned to me. Didn't loan to me, sold to me. How many, do you realize my parents sold me a vehicle with interest? Best thing they ever did for me in my life. It wasn't free. I had to pay for that. Was my money. Interest, what are you talking about? Get ready for the world, Simon. Nobody's giving you 0% interest on your car. Some of you are like, I got it. You got good credit. That's why. I don't. Well, I do now. But I mean, just say, then I moved up. Then I leased one because that's the only way I could afford it. Just saying, now I'm back to having old cars again. I have a 2003 Dodge truck. The paint job is something special. You look at it. We haven't decided if it's purple, maroon. Which one is it? Don't know. Everything's peeled off it. Nobody's going to steal it. Ching! And it's paid off. Beautiful vehicle. It's one of our newer models. We're rolling with a 2004 Toyota Avalon too. Sweet vehicle. I'm fighting the chicks off, right? I'm married. And I have my 2015 Honda Odyssey, my minivan, baby. And I roll up in that. I thought, never a day that thought, it's my vehicle, not my wife. She'll tell you that too. And I'm going to die having a minivan. I'm going to grab my grandkids. Where are you going? Going with my grandkids in the minivan. I had a plan when I got smart with my finances. How many of you are tired of paying your credit cards and paying the government 20% of what you bought? So that TV you had to have for $1,000 that you just paid $1,800 for at the long run, how's that feel? Because you had to satisfy in that moment. And finally, you need to give to God what's his. Uh-oh. Here's 2 verses just so you understand what's his. Because I want everybody to understand what's his. Because, you're thinking, what verse in the Bible does it say that money's his? Okay, let's just cover these verses. Colossians 1:16. For by him all things were created. All things. I wonder what that means. We'll keep going. Both in heavens and on earth. Oh, this is not going good for me. Visible, invisible. Shoot, he's covering like everything. He's saying even visible stuff is his. Like I can't even have my pretend friend anymore, man. This is ridiculous. Whether thrones or dominions or rulers he's claiming everything. All things have been created through him and for him. What? Psalms 50:12. If I were hungry, I would not tell you, for the world is mine and everything it contains. Time out. Something's got to be mine. Yeah, my poor attitude. Crud. Okay, let me get back to this. Everything belongs to him. You know why you have a problem with your money and your finances? Is you think it's yours. Wait, it's mine. Yeah, in this court of law, but in heaven it's his. It's a great thing that we see. Tithing is a huge issue for people. It was my big issue, and I'm not going to get into huge discussion up here on the one aspect, but here's what I know, that for some reason, people felt like they needed a tithe before the law, and for some reason, not for some reason, there was a law that you had to, then there was a law that you had to tithe, and then of course Jesus said you ought to do it, but then Jesus did this really weird thing with all these laws that when he came under grace. Like, it went from not killing somebody that was bad, but to be angry with them was bad. Wait. Like committing adultery was bad. Everybody's like, yeah, that's right. Thinking about committing adultery is now bad. Wait, time out. He's really up in the game. But then when we start talking about tithe, people are like, oh, we don't have to tithe. Yeah, because he probably what? Whoa, time out. I believe in the tithe, Pastor. Wait, everybody's like, I believe in the tithe now. Hang on. I don't want to hear what you're about to say. So if he's increased everything to be more heart issue, do you think the tithe is supposed to go down in a way, or do you think that it's a heart issue? It should actually increase our generosity. Yeah, Pastor, can we just go back to the law on the tithe? I prefer just screwing up the 10% thing. Listen, I'm so happy I'm post-cross, but it didn't make life easier like we think in some ways. Man, back in the old days, you could be seriously mad at your neighbor. But as long as you didn't go over and stab him, you're going to be okay. Now you get mad at your neighbor. God's like, hey, you going to confess? Oh, this isn't fair. Like, I can say without a doubt, this dude here's never committed adultery. Well, thank you. I got one guy's like, oh, I believe you. Like, seriously, it's not even like a challenge, right? For me, it isn't. And yet, we now look that you're not even supposed to lust after anything. It's now being comparison. I'm like, everything's getting harder. But when I press into Jesus, it actually gets easier. And so, if we change our thought that the money belongs to God because he owns everything, then it's not like, listen, if I gave everyone here in 100, I give everybody $100. No, you're not getting $100. It's not that sermon. And I said, hey, whoa, wait. Can I have 10 of it back? How many of you guys would be like, this is ridiculous, I'm out of here. I'm going to put this 90 in my pocket, but I'm not happy with you right now, Pastor. Oh, okay. Sorry, I put $90 in your pocket. Yet we go to God and we're like, whoa, what a blessing. Everything you bring is a blessing. Because this is what we should be confessing and speaking and talking about. And then we go, but God, you know you can't. You're wrong for that, God. It's a heart issue. It has nothing to do with the law. It has nothing to do with, this pastor has never checked. Has this pastor ever asked you what you've made? I don't know what anybody makes in this room other than me. Okay, I know the pastor. Okay, so the stuff I'm in charge and budget of, I know what people make. But other than that, I don't know what any of you make. And I will never ask you what you make. It's not my job to calculate you. It's my job to tell you, hey, God called you to be generous. God called you to have a heart after him. God called you this. Don't think it's yours. And then that's what we go with. I'm not tracking you down. You never heard that. But if I don't tell you the heart of the word, what are you going to be with? You're going to be stuck counting every penny, hiding in a closet with your money, being angry when you don't have it, being happy when you do, or being angry when you have too much because your kids don't love you. I'm telling you, it's perspective. And finally, talents. We're closing on talents. You got to steward your talents. It is the same thing in 1 Peter 4:10 through 11. As each one of us has received a special gift. How many of you guys have received a special gift? Each one of you. Just in case you didn't know, if you've chosen Jesus, you've received a gift. Like, I don't. No, this isn't Walmart. You don't get to take it back to exchange it for it. You got your gift. He'll bless you with more than one. But employing it in serving one another as good stewards of the multifaceted grace of God. Whoever speaks is to do as one who is speaking actual words of God. Whoever serves is to do as one who is serving by the strength which God supplies. So that in all things, God may be glorified through Jesus Christ, to whom belongs the glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Your talents aren't for you. Again, Simon, I just really dare to glorify God. You're just, are you sure we're supposed to steward them well? Employing it, serving one another as good stewards. Man, that sounds like he just took a verse that had the word he wanted in. Sure did. You're to be good stewards of the gifts God's given you. Romans 12:6-8. However, since we have gifts that differ according to the grace given to us, thank you, Jesus, each of us is to use them properly. If prophecy, in proportion to one's faith. If service, in the act of serving. Or the one who teaches in the act of teaching. Or who exhorts in the work of exhortation. The one who gives with generosity. The one who has leadership with diligence. The one who shows mercy with cheerfulness. I don't know what gift you have, but you have it. God's telling you to steward it well. He's not telling you to put it in your back pocket. Don't use it. Don't work with it. He's saying, hey, I've given you this. Pour it out. I'm going to fill it back up. I've given you this. Pour it out. I'm going to fill it back up. You're like, I'm out of mercy. No, you're not. You need me to fill it back up so you can pour it back up because it's a gift God gave you. I know most of us line up for the prophetic. I want the prophetic giftings. That's so much fun. People love to hear that. Some of you are like, I don't want that. It's too much responsibility. That's great. I'm glad. But I don't see tons of people go, I want the gift of giving and mercy. I want to forgive everybody and then give them money. Lord, give me these gifts, please. Anybody run into those people? I mean, it's like, I'm struggling today, Pat. I just really need to pray for me to receive the gift of giving and mercy. Oh, really? It's not a common request. I've been in church for a long time, and I don't recall the last time somebody said, looks like I'm struggling in this. Not struggling. It looks like, I've really been desiring gifts, and I don't think God's given me one yet, so I'm really going to pick mine out. Oh, okay. I really want giving. Oh, okay. This doesn't really happen. Yet, do you know that people that have the gift of giving, when they give, it fills them, that God does something crazy in them? How about this? I bet everyone in here has the gift of giving. How many of you have given something for just without attachments to it, and it felt good? Whoa, time out. I mean, you gave away something that was yours, and you gave it away with no attachments. You mean it felt good? It's glorifying God. And when we do what God calls us to do, it just wells up in us. And so I'm telling you right now, you have to manage your talents, whatever they are. Whatever they are, you have to operate in them. What can you start stewarding better today? My question for you. There's got to be something there to hit somebody on, right? I hope I hit. And if you're all doing well, heck yeah. I'm always working on getting better. I'm so pressed in right now into my intimate daily relationship that, am I 100%? No. You're like, how can you not be 100%, Pastor? Man, it just seems like some days catch up. Anybody woke up in the morning, have 1,000 things to do, and by the time you get back to your bed at night, you just lay down and you're like, oh my God, what a day, and you go to sleep, and then you realize that you didn't do something you thought you were supposed to do? Anybody ever been that way, or is it just me? Just me? A couple of us, I think. I've got to do better on that. If I want to lead you guys, I've got to steward it better. And so I hope you can look at this and find something you could steward better. Something you could put forth and say, you know what, I can do better here. I've not arrived. And here's a great thing, when you do better there, you're going to find out you ain't arrived somewhere else. And then you're going to get better there, and you're going to find out you're back to not doing what you used to do really well. It's just a constant check and balance. That's what good stewards do. They go back and look, how am I doing with my family? How am I doing with my time? How am I doing with my treasures? How am I doing with my talents? If you self-evaluate, you're going to stay in a much better place. So here's what I always evaluate. How's this church doing on sharing the gospel message? As long as we keep sharing it, we're doing well. Well, we're going to share it. Jesus Christ is literally the Son of God. He came to this earth, dwelled on it, lived a sinless life, and went to the cross for you and I. He died a horrible death, without doubt, on that cross. Went to the grave, but 3 days later conquered death. Listen, he literally conquered death. He rose again. He's now sitting beside the Father in heaven, interceding for us. With that, he did make some conditions. There's but one way to heaven, and that's through Jesus. There's only one way to the Father, and that's through Jesus. And we have to confess with our mouth, believe in our heart, and we shall be saved. He didn't make it. We had to clean up, get right, do right. He already said, you're a mess. I see the mess you are. I trust that you're a mess. Let's start working on that. And when you give your life to Jesus, here's the promise. The Holy Spirit shall indwell in you. You'll never be alone. You'll be filled up with it. You'll have the helper the rest of your life. What better news is there than that? So if you're here today and you came in for some reason you didn't even realize, or, oh, we already know, or you're like, you know what, I've been holding back, then I would love to be excited and welcome you into the family or back to the family. Does anybody here want to give their life to Jesus or return to Jesus today? Well, it's good news. I'm going to pray. I'm going to release you. I hope you guys have an amazing Thanksgiving. I hope you guys enjoy your time. If you're going to be alone, reach out, say something to somebody. You have a family. We're a pretty good-looking family if I'm looking out right now. Yeah, I'm serious. Maybe nobody's told you, but you're good-looking. I know, Don, somebody's told you already. Yeah, I know all the time. Your humbleness just amazes me at times. I love this, dude. Father, I thank you for who you are. I thank you for the opportunity to be in your house this morning. There's places in the world that people have to hide to talk about you. Not even be able to own a Bible, and yet we're so free to do what you can have us do. Lord, let your word, let your truth, let us manage what we're called to manage better, because we want to be faithful stewards for you. Not for Simon, not for the church, as in people there that we can say that we're doing it, but for you. We want to steward everything you give us with the best of care. Lord, I pray that everyone here will have an amazing time. They'll be safe on their travels, and those traveling will be safe. That they'll have great times with their family. Remember what to be thankful for, that they have sisters and brothers and cousins and aunts and uncles and parents. No matter what the relationship is, that there's still time and talking, and they'll be thankful that you have sent your son to die for us. We can stand on that truth, and our hope is steadfast in that. Keep care of them. And Lord, I even say opportunities for them to share the truth again this week with someone. Share their testimony. Share a blessing. What a week to do it. Let them love well. Bring glory to your name. In Jesus' name, amen. Have a blessed week, guys. Can't wait to see you on Sunday or whenever I see you next.